Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Waves of Life. I am Dr. Mona Sannan. Waves of Life is a weekly program broadcast live every Wednesday between 4 and 5 p.m. and repeated twice within the 24 hours. Waves of Life is about well-being and how to take better control of your health. Today we are discussing a very interesting topic. Can diet improve our mental health? Do you think that there is a relationship between diet and our mental health? Can deficiency of certain essential foods and vitamins be the root cause of many mental illnesses? Are there types of food that can reduce risks of certain medical illness? Let's find more about this topic today with our guest, Dr. Mohammed Bardi. He is a consultant psychiatrist and he's here to explain to us more about it. Welcome, Dr. Mohammed, to Waves of Life, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate your invitation, and I hope I could be a pleasant guest and add some new and fresh information and knowledge for our viewers today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mohammed, first we'd like to know if there is a relationship between mental illnesses and a deficiency of some nutrients and vitamins?
Well, as you mentioned earlier in the introduction that healthy food is important for our general well-being and health, and it is essential to maintain a healthy body and reduce risks of certain medical illnesses like diabetes and obesity and heart disease. And just recently, there has been growing interest from researchers and clinical studies to find a relation, to explore and investigate if there's a relationship between certain types of food and specific mental or psychiatric illnesses. And indeed, several studies have found some links between several types of food and specific types of psychiatric illnesses.
So if we want to talk about some psychiatric illnesses, I think the most common one is depression.
That is true. It is one of the most commonest psychiatric illnesses around.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can talk about it. And
so what is depression first?
Yeah, depression. Depression is classified as a mood disorder under the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is a manual used by the American Psychiatric Association to code and classify mental illness. And what happens in depression, it is an illness that affects people's mood. And people start experiencing symptoms of low mood, low energy, loss of interest. They have difficulty concentrating, they have disturbed sleep, and sometimes loss of appetite. And usually depression can occur at any age, but the mean age of depression is around 40. So it occurs between 20 and 50. And it's found to be more common in women than men, around 2 times more common in women than in men.
Why is that, doctor? Why it's more common in women than in men?
Well, it's really not clear why the reason, but there are several theories and hypotheses to try to find the reason for that. And some theories and hypotheses found that hormonal differences between the two genders could be a reason. Also, the child-bearing effect on the woman. And also they found that there are different psychosocial stressors between the two genders, so it's different for women than for men.
So sometimes also I think it's women, they are more emotional and they get more affected by circumstances in their lives.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. Women are more emotional, tend to be more emotional, and then, you know, more prone, probably one of the theories that they are more prone for depression, I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the moment. We'll go for a short report and come back to you to continue our interesting discussion. Stay with us.
What kind of food makes you feel happy?
I feel happy when I get good fruits and fresh fruits, and also vegetables, fresh vegetables.
My favorite food is vegetable and fruit.
I really like eating Mexican food and some Italian, yeah.
I like vegetable and rice and seafood.
I like Italy food, pizza and pasta, like this.
My kind of favorite food is to eat the fat food, our original cooking, Eastern cooking.
Okay, can you just tell us when do you like to eat? When you're angry or when you're happy?
I would like it when I am happy.
When I am happy.
angry?
Every time. Almost when I'm happy. When I'm happy.
No, when I am hungry. I'm not angry. Honestly, يعني, it does not depend on the mood. يعني. Sometimes you like to eat a lot. Sometimes you don't like to.
Welcome back. Well, it's interesting, Dr. Muhammad, because some people, they like to eat when they are angry. Some people like to eat when they are happy. Why is that?
Well, it is strange. People tend to, feel hungry depending on their specific individual variations. Some people tend to eat more when they are depressed. Other times, actually, it's the opposite way. When they are depressed, they feel like they lost their appetite. But usually people, when they're happy, I guess food makes people more happy, so they tend to eat when they're more in a joyful. When you're with your friends and you're at social gathering, you feel like you're happy and your appetite is open and you want to eat. So that's the way it is, I guess.
Yeah. And during the talk show, we are going also to mention about the food that can make us feel happier and better mood. So if you can tell us now about the causes of depressive disorders.
Yes, that is a very important question, because I get this question many times in the clinic when people ask me about why do I have depression, why is that? So the cause of depression are actually fall under something we call the biopsychosocial model, which proposes that several etiological factors can contribute to the development of depression. For example, if you talk about the biological causes, it has been found that there are several abnormalities in the brain which cause disturbance in certain neurotransmitters in the brain. The most one implicated in depression is serotonin. There's also norepinephrine and dopamine. And so when there's a disturbance in these neurotransmitters, people tend to have depression. And that's why antidepressants, which restore this imbalance back to normal, can help in treating depression. Other biological causes or factors that lead to hypothesis that there's a biological causes are the genetics studies. They found that depression runs in families. For instance, if a parent has depression, the chances that the child might have depression is around 10 to 25%. Now, if two parents have depression, then the chance will double in this case.
So is there anything, doctors can do if someone is carrying the genetic factors? You said now, you just mentioned that two parents will make the risk factor to go up for
double, around 50%
around
maybe.
50%.
Yeah.
So anything can be done regarding this issue, or it's a must?
Of course, as I mentioned, that the biological causes are just one part of the cause that contribute to the development of depression. There are other causes like psychosocial, life events, environmental factors that maybe if the parents can avoid these to happen to their children, they can avoid the depression to develop into a full picture.
So what about the psychosocial causes?
Psychosocial causes can include like certain life events or environmental factors. For example, they found that unemployment is a risk factor for developing depression. If a person is out of the job, then he is more prone to develop depression, about 3 times more than if he was employed. Other life events and environmental factors can include, for example, loss of a parent at an early age, or loss of a spouse, like a husband or a wife.
So there are psychosocial factors, and that can affect depression.
True, yes, it can affect depression. Another also causative factor, or some of the theories for the cause of depression, include the psychodynamic theories, which explores the cognitive distortions. What I mean by cognitive distortions is thought distortions, that the person who is depressed have negative thoughts. And so he thinks that he has negative thoughts about himself, he has negative thoughts about the environment, that it is hostile and harmful, and he has negative thoughts about the future as well.
And
so
they feel guilty all the time. It's like anything they do, they feel guilty about it, or...
Yes, it is one of the prominent symptoms of depression, the feeling of guilt. Feelings of guilt in the person, he feels guilty, and then afterwards he feels helpless and hopeless, and so it's really a troublesome illness, really.
At one point in our lives, we all have this moods of depression. It comes and goes. I mean, there is no one who did not face depression in his life, and this is a fact.
That is true, yeah.
But we try to get rid of this depression mood. What happens if people cannot get rid of this depression mood? When it is the time to go and seek help from the psychiatrist?
That is a very good question as well, because we all go through, you know, mood swings in our lives. Nobody is always happy all the time.
Yeah, it's not a stable life.
Yes.
It's up and down.
Yes, we have stressors, we have many problems that makes our mood swings. Sometimes even without stress, we just wake up and we're like, oh, I'm depressed today. Why? I don't know why I feel like blue. So the question is, when do we seek help? That is a very good question, and I think that the point where the depression is starting to develop into a more severe form with more severe symptoms, and it takes a longer duration of time. I mean, we all have mood swings like 1-2 days or maximum a week, but if it exceeds 2 weeks continuously, then this means there's a problem. This might be indicates that there's an illness, a depressive illness, and then that's when a person should seek help. Also, the severity of the symptoms. Sometimes person have depression and he feels blue and he feels he has hopelessness of life, and then he starts to develop death wishes sometimes. They feel like they don't want to live in life.
So they go to the extreme.
They go to the extreme and they think about even suicide, and you know, they sometimes attempt suicide. So really, they shouldn't wait and they should immediately seek help for that.
So if depression mood continues for more than 2 weeks, then
Yes.
people should go and seek help.
Yes, this is of course due to with certain symptoms, of course, not
Yeah.
just a mild low mood for even 1 month isn't really that's a problem, especially if it's fluctuating. But if it's like 2 weeks with severe symptoms, I mean, like he's in the house, he's blue all the time, and he has loss of appetite, then I think he should seek help before the illness can progress into a more worse condition. So 2 weeks, this is even the criteria in the DSM-4 that I mentioned, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual.
Okay, thanks for the moment. And we'll go now to a short report to see can food affect our brain, and come back to continue our discussion with Dr. Mohammed Bardi. Stay with us. Welcome back. Dr. Mohammed, can diet help to prevent or minimize risk of depression?
Yes, out of all the mental illnesses, depression, I believe, has been the most studied mental illness, and linked to a certain diet and food. And indeed, there are several studies that have proven a link between certain types of food and depression. Of course, the link is not a causal link, not a direct link between the two. But a deficiency of certain diets can contribute to worsen the symptoms, or and certain diets can help prevent a person going into depression, but it is not a treatment for depression, of course.
So how much diet can play a role in minimizing risk of depression
Yeah,
or improving the situation?
yeah, there are several types of food that can help as an ally for the management and treatment to reduce some of the symptoms of depression to some extent, which is sometimes significant enough and can help. And
We'll go to the slides. We'll show our viewers.
yes, we have a list here
yeah.
of certain types
Yeah.
of food that are linked
Yeah.
with depression.
Yeah.
And can help. As you can see here, this is the slide of fish. Of course, fish has been proven that to help depression because it is rich in essential oils called the omega-3 fatty acids. And the link between omega-3 fatty acids and depression have been proven in several different studies. The most famous one was conducted in Harvard in 1999, and they found that omega-3 helped significant improvement in mood. Now, omega-3, as we mentioned, is found in fish, and it is found most likely in salmon, and anchovies, mackerel, herring, and sardines. These are the types of fish that contain omega-3.
Yeah.
Another type of food that helps in depression are nuts and seeds, which might help in elevating the mood. One should try using nuts, consuming nuts and seeds because they also contain omega-3 fatty acids, which can be found in hazelnuts, pecans, walnuts, hemp seeds, and flax seeds. Not only do these nuts contain omega-3, but they also contain B vitamins. One study in the University of Navarra and the University of Las Palmas in Spain in 2009 found that B vitamins are associated with positive moods and reduce the chances of mild depression.
Especially vitamin B12, I think.
Yes, especially vitamin B12 also is a very important type. We'll speak about it also in a moment. Vitamin B1 can be found in sunflower seeds, in sesame seeds, in the something called Brazil nuts, in the cashew nuts, in almonds, and in walnuts as well. Another type of important types of food are the greens. Greens are very important and helpful. Of course, we know that they are important for the general health and the medical, to reduce medical illness. And they found that they are a good ally with medication against depression. For example, the pantothenic acid, also known as vitamin B5 also, can be found in avocados. The other main B vitamins can be found in mushrooms, pumpkins, and green peppers.
And the avocado also contains the good saturated fats, including omega-3, omega-9, that will also give us a good supply and boost of the good fats that we need.
Oh, that's true, Dr. Mona.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you
And
for
broccoli also is very good.
Yeah, broccoli and Brussels sprouts and asparagus and broccoli, yeah, they contain folic acid. And there's another also study that found that folic acid or folate is important and can help in reducing depressive symptoms. Now we'll speak about fruits. As you can see, the grapefruits and oranges are important because they contain what is called the flavonoids. Maybe you know them,
Yes.
Dr. Mona.
Yeah. Flavonoids are very important, and they are mostly found in the citrus fruits, and like orange and grapefruits, and also they help to improve our mood and to make us sleep
Yes.
better in the night.
Yes, that is true. And there's a study also regarding the flavonoids in 2005 in China. Actually, they found that inhibits symptoms of mild depression. So,
Great.
yes, oranges and grapefruits
So
as
our
well.
viewers, they should always go and try to eat fruits every day.
Yes.
Eat the citrus fruits, oranges, kiwis, go to the watermelon, to all these nice rainbow colors.
Yes, true.
And have
Yes, we know that fruits and vegetables are very, very important and essential. Another thing, maybe some of the viewers will enjoy this, is chocolate. But
Yes,
of course,
dark chocolate.
not any type of chocolate, especially dark chocolate. And research in 1995 in Dundee University found that chocolate contains certain chemicals that affect the brain by releasing endorphins and serotonin. These are the chemicals that signal your brain to feel happy. And of course, as we mentioned, dark chocolate that contains a high amount of cocoa.
More
Yeah.
than 70% cacao.
Yes.
They should read actually on the label that it contains more than 70% cacao. Otherwise, it will not be very good for you. So you can have a little bit, treat yourself with a little bit of dark chocolate a day, but not more than 15 grams only.
That's true. And especially also we should at least minimize the high sugary chocolate because, you know, sugar can sometimes provoke feelings of guilt and help in weight gain, so we have to watch that, yes.
Definitely, and we can just go for moderation because I think moderation is the best tool for balance in life.
Definitely, in
Yeah.
everything in life.
In everything in life.
Now we'll go to also the olive oil.
We have the banana.
The banana. The bananas are also, yes, are essential for reducing depressive symptoms. They found that it is quite helpful in certain studies that bananas, we can add them to the list of fruits that can help in minimizing the depressive symptoms.
Because also it contains the tryptophan that can boost our serotonin levels and make us feel happier. This is why they always associate banana with a smile. No?
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
If you eat a banana every day, maybe you will smile
smile
more.
every day.
Smile more. And
Could be.
also it contains iron and vitamin A, so it's very healthy for you, for your physical health as well,
Yes,
and
yes.
for your mental health.
Yes. Let's not forget that physical health is important also for the mental health. Because if you have a
Definitely.
good body, you'll have a good health, and the other way around as well.
So the other food, as you mentioned, we have the
Yeah, we
olive
have also
oil.
the olive oil. Another study in the University of California in San Francisco in 2009 found that olive oil is helpful in fighting depression. Olive oil is a source of omega-9 and also omega-3, and it contains good fats that keep the heart healthy and can help you live longer. This is from the physiological, and also help in the minimizing or reducing some of the depressive symptoms. Then we have the certain cereals can help in depression. Sugary cereals are best avoided, but whole cereals such as oatmeal contains vitamin B1 and vitamin B6, which, as mentioned before, have been linked to improved mood. So we should look for cereals with whole grains and try to check the sugar content in it.
We have the vitamin B12 that is also important for proper nerve function and for the production of red blood cells and for metabolizing the fats and proteins and prevention of anemia and for DNA reproduction and, of course, energy reproduction.
Yes, true.
And also vitamin B12, it helps to support higher energy levels, as we said, mental clarity and emotional stability and nervous system functions. The good sources are the meat, dairy products, and eggs. Well, enough about food now.
Yes.
We'll go to another short report about food. Stay with us.
A growing body of evidence suggests people who suffer from depression may benefit from changes in their diet. So it's important to understand how what you eat and what you don't eat can have a significant impact on your mood.
There's no specific diet that can instantly improve your mood. However, numerous studies demonstrate the importance of certain nutrients for healthy brain chemistry. When your diet lacks essential nutrients, your body may not have what it needs to produce important brain chemicals called neurotransmitters. People who suffer from depression typically have reduced levels of neurotransmitters, especially serotonin, which is important for mood regulation. Neurotransmitters are nourished from the nutrients you consume. So it's important to make sure your body gets the nutrients it needs, including proteins, carbohydrates, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and omega-3 fatty acids. Protein-rich foods are believed to boost alertness, energy, and concentration. Sources of protein include poultry, fish, eggs, beans, and nuts, as well as soy and milk products. Complex carbohydrates like whole grains, fruits, and vegetables may be especially beneficial as they're known to increase the brain's serotonin levels. It's also important to get enough of certain vitamins, such as vitamin B1, which is associated with healthy nerve function. Vitamin B6 helps maintain a healthy balance of hormones, while vitamin C enhances the immune system. Omega-3 fatty acids found in salmon, tuna, other types of seafood, dark green leafy vegetables, and certain oils are believed to be essential to healthy mental functioning. Conversely, Scientists believe low levels of omega-3 may increase vulnerability for depression. More importantly, research suggests that people who follow a Mediterranean-type diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seafood, and monounsaturated fats like olive oil appear to be about 30% less likely to suffer from depression. This research is significant because previous studies regarding diet and depression typically focused on certain food groups rather than diet as a whole. The study also suggests that Mediterranean countries have lower rates of depression in comparison to other parts of the world. In contrast, research suggests a typical Western diet, often high in saturated fats as well as refined and processed foods, may increase depression likelihood by 50%. These findings underscore the importance of avoiding unhealthy foods that may deplete your body of nutrients, affect blood sugar, and contribute to depression. High caffeine intake has been associated with depression and anxiety and has also been shown to aggravate insomnia. High levels of refined sugar used in coffee, soda, and energy drinks, as well as myriad packaged snack foods, are also associated with depression.
Welcome back. It's very interesting, Dr. Muhammad, how food can affect our mood, how
Yes.
food can minimize our depression. I think it's very much associated because when we eat healthy in general, we will have better figure, and our self-esteem will be better, and exercise also is very important.
Yes, there is no doubt that exercise is very important to maintain a healthy body in general, and also to maintain a healthy mental capacity or mental functioning. And indeed, there are several studies and still ongoing studies to examine the role of exercise in reducing certain symptoms of depression and even other psychiatric illnesses, and even in addiction. They are trying to explore the role of exercise in reducing addiction. When I was there in the States, there was a research about examining exercise and its effect in reducing the probability of a person to go back to substance abuse. But yeah, there's no doubt it's very important.
Because it boosts our good hormones that can affect our mental state, our brain, and make us feel much
Yes.
better. This is why people, when they exercise, it's amazing. They feel much better. They feel happier.
Without a doubt, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think it also boosts the endorphins, which also makes a person happy.
Yeah, the
Some-
good
some
feel
people-
hormones.
Yeah, and some people say it is addictive, the exercise itself as well. So
Well, at least it's a good thing
it's a
to
good
be addictive to.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good addiction.
Yeah, it's a good addiction. So, Dr. Muhammad, now we move to another kind of mental illnesses. What is bipolar disorder?
Bipolar disorder, yes. It is called a bipolar affective disorder. It is another mood disorder, just like depression, but it's defined by one or more manic episode with or without a depressive episode. And what I mean by manic episode, usually the manic episode is characterized by an abnormally elevated or expansive mood, and sometimes irritable mood, and there's a decreased need for sleep, flight of ideas, and sometimes even grandiose ideas. And usually the person tends to have a mania, then after the manic episode he tends to go into depression and so on. So it is a mania and a depressive kind of waves of illness, but not necessarily depression. Sometimes only manic symptoms can define a bipolar.
So what are the causes of bipolar?
Well, bipolar as a mood disorder, it shares a lot with depression, and they both fall under the biopsychosocial model. Again, biological factors have been involved, and psychological factors. However, maybe certain psychodynamic factors are different between bipolar and depression. For example, there are several theories that think that mania is sort of a defense mechanism against depression. So the causes are almost similar to depressive.
So they are the same as depression?
Almost the same, but there are certain slight differences, but in the end they're classified as mood disorders, and they share much of the pathophysiology or the causes between them.
And can diet improve it, as in the case of depression also?
Well, unlike depression, not a lot of investigation or research has explored that. There are some studies, but very minimal, and there's no direct cause between the two. However, there are several studies that found that certain foods might be helpful to reduce some of the symptoms of bipolar, especially the depressive episode of bipolar. Again, we go back to fish and omega-3. It has been found, there's a study conducted that they found that omega-3 has found to reduce the depressive symptoms in bipolar patients. So omega-3 can be helpful. Other than that, there aren't many diets that have been found to be linked with bipolar to help, I mean, in bipolar.
What about avoiding certain foods with bipolar? Can it help if
Yes,
patients
there are
avoid
certain
foods?
Definitely, certain types of food should be better avoided to control the illness better. So I have a list here also. For example, recommended to stop caffeine, and in the video they talk about caffeine as a stimulant, and then avoiding high-fat meals, watching salt intake, and of course following your doctor's instructions to stay away from food that may interact with specific medications. Now, if we talked about caffeine, we know that it is a stimulant, and it
You
can
are talking about too much caffeine.
Yeah, too much caffeine, of course. Yeah,
But I mean 2 cups of coffee a day or 2 cups of tea, it's okay.
It's okay, of course,
okay,
yeah.
yes.
Too much consumption of caffeine that is, over the usual might lead to mood disruptions, and like we heard in the video, also disrupt sleep, which is a problem for a manic patient or bipolar patient. Too much caffeine also can diminish the sedative effects of a class of drug that we sometimes used in manic illness called the benzodiazepine. So when you take too much caffeine, it might disrupt it, and which we use sometimes to treat the anxiety and mania associated with bipolar. So it's better to avoid too much caffeine, but of course, I mean, 1 or 2 cups are okay.
So if I want to ask you, which is more dangerous, depression or bipolar? Can we say that there is one disease that is more severe or more dangerous?
No, we cannot say that because it depends on the case, because cases, they present to us and differently. There are individual variations. Sometimes you have a mild form of bipolar. Of course, bipolar is, we didn't go in much details. There are several types of bipolar. There's bipolar 1, bipolar 2. Bipolar 2 is usually less severe. But it's difficult to say that certain disease is more dangerous than the other. It depends on the individual and the type of symptoms and the severity. So, yeah, it depends on that.
Well, thank you for the moment. We'll go to a short segment from Dr. O's talk show and come back. Stay with us.
Depression became my life, and I have been through about 20 different therapists, and I have been on every antidepressant you can think of, and they wouldn't work.
After researching her options, this 46-year-old woman turned to TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, which uses pulsed magnetic energy to stimulate and reset neurons in the brain. Using magnets for depression may sound unorthodox, but this groundbreaking therapy is being studied at top medical centers. TMS is promising, but still controversial, even though it is non-invasive and approved by the FDA to treat severe depression.
In my case, TMS saved my life. There's no doubt.
Is TMS hype, or the most outlandish cure yet for depression? It's controversial, it's unorthodox, and it's revolutionary. But I believe this could be an effective treatment. And before we explain why this might work, let me show you the area of the brain we think is responsible for depression. I've shown you brains before, but this is vitally important if you're going to understand this approach to taking care of depression. The brain is oriented, so the eyes are up front here, and the balance area in the back. So the front of the body, back of the body. If you look at the brain, the part in the front is called the prefrontal cortex, and it regulates moods. It has interconnections. This is the prefrontal cortex here. If you divide this in half, it has connections to the rest of the brain, including an area called the hippocampus. It's sort of the eyes of the emotional system, and it links emotions that you're feeling and processing up here in the prefrontal cortex to the outside world. So, how can magnets treat this? Dr. Tariq Pereira is a specialist in this area. He's an assistant professor of psychiatry at Columbia University. He's here with his patient, Suzanne. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate it. So, Dr. Pereira, talk to me about this revolutionary and very controversial approach.
Yes, we have this device which can provide a very focused magnetic field to the part of the brain that mediates depression. What TMS does is it activates that region. If it keeps activating it, it teaches the brain to activate it, and then the brain can picks it up and maintains that activity. And as a result, it is the first, it's actually a paradigm shift in psychiatry. It is the first biologically based treatment for depression in the history of psychiatry. Now we can finally go in and in a very focused way treat the brain just like you would treat the heart. So we are really much more biologically based with this treatment.
And Suzanne is joining us today. Now, tell me honestly, was this process helpful for you?
Life-changing.
It was.
Life-changing. I pretty much about the third week, I felt like a cloud had lifted, dark cloud, as we were talking about, lifted, and I was at dinner, and my son looked at my husband and said, "Dad, she's different. She's a new person.
Mom's back."
Mom is back. And I was that woman on that video, and it was, to hear that come from him was all the difference in the world.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Dr. Mohammed, do you agree with that, with what we saw in the report?
Well, I do agree with one point that Dr. Oz mentioned, that it is a controversial type of treatment, because there are some psychiatrists that are with it and others are against it because of it is, using electrical currents. Of course, I don't have a personal experience with the TMS, but we know that it showed some promising results, but usually it should be used as a second-line treatment after the medication. So I think if a patient is depressed, we should first try a medication before, and then if it doesn't work, several types of medication, then we might use TMS. We already use something called electroconvulsive therapy. It's another controversial type, but it is used for several years and has been showing some very favorable results. But I guess TMS has, it seems like it does have less side effects. So it does look promising.
Inshallah. Dr. Mohammed, some people, they mix between split personality and schizophrenia. Can you explain to us what is schizophrenia first?
Yes, unfortunately this is true. There are a misconception about schizophrenia, that it is actually the split personality illness. And that is of course untrue, because schizophrenia and split personality are two different illnesses in psychiatry. And split personality is actually officially called the dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder. These are the official names. And it is classified under dissociative disorders, while schizophrenia is classified under the psychotic disorders.
So what are the causes of schizophrenia?
Causes of schizophrenia, again, they are, it is multifactorial with many etiological factors, which include biological, psychosocial, and psychological, as we mentioned, and social, yes. And regarding the biological, they went through several family and twin studies and found again a link that if a first-degree relative has schizophrenia, then the risk in the relative is around 6.5%. But of course, having the genes doesn't mean that you will certainly develop the disease. You have to go through certain stressors. For example, again, unemployment or harsh parenting, or sometimes there's also evidence that child abuse or a person who has been abused while he's a child might later on develop into schizophrenia.
Is diet related to schizophrenia? Can diet minimize risk of schizophrenia?
Again, not like depression. Unlike depression, not a lot of data has been did explore any relationship between diet or schizophrenia. However, there are researchers that are looking and finding any links, and there's a link again with omega-3. It seems omega-3 is the key in the mental illness to some extent, and they found that omega-3 is helpful in reducing. There was a study in Vienna, in Austria. They did a study in patients, and they found that omega-3 helped in preventing the pre-symptoms of schizophrenia to be developed into full-blown schizophrenia. So people who have like minor symptoms took the omega-3 and they were prevented from developing the full picture of schizophrenia, while those who did not take it developed the full-blown schizophrenia. So there are some studies that suggest that it might be helpful.
That is very promising and encouraging.
Yes, it is.
And do you advise families who have schizophrenia patients, or do you advise when there is a genetic factor in families, do you advise them to seek help and advice in order to help to minimize the risk for their children to get
Yes,
to have
actually,
schizophrenia?
in psychiatry, actually, there is a new, approach, which is prevention, because usually in psychiatry, sometimes prevention is not easy. So prevention is to identify high-risk people who might develop a certain illness, in this example, schizophrenia. If we identify those high risks, we might work with them and advise them to be seen by counselors or even psychiatrists to try to minimize, to start something, or to at least to minimize the development of schizophrenia in these patients. High risks patients are those who we mentioned that have genetic vulnerability, that have certain social stressors or factors that can help in developing these illnesses. So yes, we can, in certain high-risk individuals, can help them prevent the illness to develop into a full picture.
So early intervention is very important,
yes,
to help
of
them
course.
to minimize the risk?
Definitely, early intervention is very important, even if the patient have like sometimes schizophrenia, it has a range of symptoms, and sometimes start with only minor symptoms. So if the patient starts with only minor or slight symptoms, we have to again try to intervene quickly to stop it from developing into a more severe form.
Dr. Mohammed, what is ADHD and how common it is?
ADHD, yes, ADHD. ADHD stands for the Attention Deficit and Hyperactivity Disorder, and it is a psychiatric illness that affects usually children and adolescents, and can sometimes reach up to the adulthood, but usually typically in the childhood. And it is characterized by the child having hyperactivity, impulsivity, or inattention. And they usually have symptoms of, short attention span, easily distractibility, and in school they usually have problem following instructions, and at home sometimes they are impulsive, talking excessively, jumping and climbing excessively and inappropriately. So typically hyperactive. Of course, ADHD can present, there are, roughly 2 types, or 3 types if we can mention, which is either hyperactivity alone, inattention alone, or a combination of hyperactivity and inattention altogether.
So can diet cause it, or is it a risk factor? Can it make it more severe with people or with children who have this disease?
Yes, yes. Again, we cannot say that there's a direct link or a direct causative link between a certain illness and a diet, but researchers, I think there was a study done in London, they found that food additives that are found in the juices and candies, the colors, the additives, can lead to increase the hyperactivity, or lead to hyperactivity, or at least increase the hyperactivity in the children with the disorder.
To what extent?
They didn't measure the extent. They just, they found that these dyes, when they did the research, the 2 groups, those children who received them and those who didn't, they found that the one who received the additives, the foods containing the additives, were more tend to have severer symptoms or more hyperactivity. And also I have the names of the dyes here, and I think we have them in the
Yeah, we can go to the slideshow.
There's the names of the dyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, have them there.
Sunset yellow, and we have the quinoline yellow.
Yeah, quinolone yellow,
Yeah.
and the tetrazine, and the alora red, and the preservative sodium benzoate.
Yeah.
Yes. So these are the dyes that have been linked with hyperactive behavior.
Thank you for the moment. We'll go to a short report about ADHD and come back to continue our discussion with Dr. Mohammed Bardi. Stay with us.
A complete and balanced diet is probably the most sound advice. But some specific types of food are especially good for brain health. Here are a few of the best. Fish. The original brain food contains lots of omega-3 fatty acids and fish oils, especially cold water fish like salmon and cod. Omega-3s are beneficial in a number of ways, including promoting neuronal growth, improved cholesterol, and fortification of myelin sheaths, which facilitate communication between neurons. Vegetables. These are a great source of antioxidants, which may reduce the risk of developing cognitive impairment by diminishing oxidative stress. Spinach, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, and cauliflower are among the top candidates. Fruits. Like vegetables, fruits are rich in antioxidants. However, fruit tastes better. Some of your healthiest options are blueberries, blackberries, cranberries, strawberries, raspberries, plums, avocados, oranges, red grapes, red bell peppers, cherries, and kiwi. Water. Be sure to get enough to keep your body and brain hydrated. Dehydration can cause a headache now and can lead to long-term neuronal damage sustained from elevated stress hormones. Chocolate. Last, and arguably least beneficial, are cocoa beans, which contain the flavanol epicatechin and antioxidants. Dark chocolate is best, and avoid candy bars with lots of added sugars. Also, recent research suggests that chocolate can improve memory. Just like you exercise your body, your brain also needs a workout to stay healthy and maintain peak performance. Scientifically designed brain games are a great option because you can have fun and improve the health of your brain at the same time. Thousands of people have started playing such scientific brain games and have reported increased memory, concentration, and attention.
Welcome back. Dr. Mohammed, what about the energy drinks? We know that there is now spread of energy drink use between adults and between young people. How dangerous can be? How can it affect their psychological and mental status?
Yes, that is true. It has been widespread, especially in teenagers, I've noticed. And there is growing interest in research to explore the effects of these drinks on the mental health or the behavior. And indeed, they found that certain studies found that these energy drinks can lead to risky behavior in teenagers and adolescents. So these teenagers, when they drink too much, of course, of it, can tend to be more risky, can be violent, and sometimes can go into substance abuse or dependence or addiction. In other substances, of course, not in energy drink. This doesn't mean that these drinks are bad, but they are a red flag, and I think parents should be cautious about the amount of their children are consuming of these energy drinks.
Well, Dr. Mohammed Bardi, thank you very much for joining us today in Waves of Life, and we hope to join us again, inshallah, in future episodes.
Thank you. You're welcome. I really enjoyed it here.
Thank you very much. For our viewers, we like to remind you that the replay of the episode is tonight at 11:30 p.m. and next Thursday at 9 a.m. Makkah al-Mukarramah timing. Today is Mother's Day. From our program team, Mrs. Amal Al-Gadhi, Mrs. Dina Arrar, Mrs. Rahab Al-Khlaytit, Ms. Ghada Rashid, Ms. Najla Al-Utaybi, from our program director, Mr. Abdullah Lula'i, Mr. Fahd Al-Jahni, Mr. Abdullah Al-Hamida, Mr. Wajid Al-Madi, we tell you Happy Mother's Day for all mothers in the world and for our mothers as well. May God grant you with happiness and health. Again, we remind you that if you have any questions, you can email us to our email program, wavesoflifeprogram@gmail.com. You can also go to our Facebook, facebook.com/wavesoflifeprogram. We appreciate your input regarding our topic choices, and we like to share with you your views. We thank you very much for joining us today in Waves of Life. We hope to meet again next week, inshallah, in a new episode. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.